In this video, we're going to experiment with wax seals. So I'm going to show you everything from creating a standard wax seal to elevating them with little embellishments like gold foil, flakes, and flower petals. So here are our wax seal supplies. We have 4 different colors of wax: red, silver, gold, and then also clear. Then we have candles to heat the wax with, and a spoon that will hold the wax while you're heating it. Then there's 2 different wax seals. One is blank, which is nice to use when you're adding embellishments, and the other is a leaf print. And then gold foil flakes and dried flower petals. Then of course you'll need any paper, cards, envelopes, or objects that you're going to be adding a wax seal to. So first step in creating your wax seal is to melt the wax. And I've went ahead and filled the spoon with the silver wax here. You'll want roughly a half teaspoon at least of wax pellets to melt down. So it's going to be a different number depending on which size you're using. I have like 12 or 14 pellets in here. And with this one, I can get away with maybe 2 or 3 pellets. So you're going to go ahead and hold this over the flame. And I don't dunk it all the way down into the flame, just kind of touching the very tip of the flame. And then I like to move it around a little bit to help it melt down evenly. One thing that's kind of fun about using the pellets is if you ever want to get creative with colors, it's really easy to mix the different pellets in one spoonful and play around with different colors, or even doing kind of a swirl. We're just going to go with solid for now. And you can see it's starting to melt down. And again, I like to move it around to just help it melt evenly. It's also good to get a sense of how liquidy it is. So once you see all the solid pieces disappear and melt down, you can take it off the flame. Usually when you've just pulled it off, it's very fluid and actually too runny to pour onto your paper. So I usually let it cool for maybe 20-ish seconds, and I often kind of blow on it and just, if you kind of keep moving it around, you get a sense if it's thickening or if it's still really thin. So that's my little trick to seeing if it's ready. Okay, so I've cooled that down a little bit, and I'm just going to show you on this swatch of paper how to create the wax seal, and I'm using the leaf seal for now, and we'll play a little bit with the solid blank seal in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and pour. Try to get as much out as I can, and then put this aside. And I kind of, as I press down, circulate the wax a little bit to spread it out. And then I'm going to let that set there until the wax around it is starting to solidify more. I don't want to disturb it while it's setting. So I'm going to let that set for a few seconds and then pull it out of the wax. Okay, I let my wax seal set for a little bit. While it was setting, I went ahead and wiped off the wax that was on the spoon. That's one thing it's helpful to do when it's still warm if you want to switch colors for the next one, just to kind of wipe that off. If you're not switching colors, you don't have to clean off your spoon every time. So one way to tell if the wax is starting to set is the look of the wax will go from more of a wet, glossy look to more of a matte look. So that's how I can tell it's starting to set, and it'll be better to pull it out and I won't disrupt the seal. So that it pops right out. And then you see you have our little leaf impression and our wax seal's all done. So super easy. This one's really circular. A lot of times they take on different shapes. There's kind of an imperfection to the look of wax seals, and that's kind of the beauty of it. So you can play with different quantities of wax. But the other thing we're going to play with is adding different embellishments like petals and gold foil. So next I'm going to try to do a seal that is a marbled look. So I've put 2 different colors of wax in here, and I'm going to go ahead and melt them down. Okay, I'm all melted. I'm going to let this cool a little bit, and then I'm going to attempt to swirl as I pour. So I'm going to blow this off a little bit. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pour. Cool, I like how that looks. So I'm going to let it set, and then we'll do the reveal. Okay, I think this is ready to be removed. So let's see how it turned out. There you have it. The marbling turned out pretty well, just by kind of waiting until the last minute to kind of swirl it as you pour it. So I think that's a lot of fun, and you can play with a lot of different colors that way. So next I'm going to play with using inclusions in the wax seals. So inclusions would be things like the gold foil flakes or the dried flower petals. And this is when I end up using more understated wax colors and wax seals. So using the clear to really show off the petals. Same thing with this wax seal stamp, is it's just a blank stamp. So that way you can see the other elements. There's different approaches you can take to this. The first one I'm going to do is actually sprinkling the petals directly on the paper and then doing the wax on top, and then we can play around with other ways as well. So as I mentioned, you don't need quite as many of these clear because they're a bigger pellet than the colored ones. I'm going to go ahead and do 3. Okay, so that's all melted. I'm gonna let it cool a little bit so that it's not super runny. In the meantime, I'm just going to kind of add a sprinkling of petals here. And so not all of them will get trapped underneath the wax, so we'll just brush away the extra when we're done. That's probably more than I want to do. All right. See how this is doing. Maybe let it set a little longer. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pour. And I'm using my blank seal to press down, and then I'm going to let that set. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and remove this. And then we'll brush off the extra here. One thing that I sometimes do is, if I've got the little stubborn pieces around the edges, I have a little brush like this that I brush them off. There you have it, and you can just see the petals coming through the clear wax. I probably could have cleaned up that edge a little better. So it's really fun to play with those. And it's nice to have the blank seal so that you can really see the petals coming through and you don't get distracted by another image. So this was doing the petals underneath, and you can also start with the wax and do petals on top. Sometimes that's a nice way to feature kind of a bigger petal on its own, or you can sprinkle them as well. So next I'm going to do the wax first and petal second, just with a single petal that I picked out that looks pretty good. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and pour my wax. and add this petal. It can be helpful if you have tweezers, but I'm just gonna go ahead and drop it right in there. And then press it in. Okay, let's take a look. There you have it. Wow, pretty well centered too. Not that that's the goal, but this way you get the petal embedded in there, you get to still see a little texture of it, and it's front and center. Next, I'm going to play around with gold foil, and really with the gold foil you can treat it the same way as we do with the petals, where you can sprinkle it under the wax, over the wax, or even just take a single flake and add it. So I'm going to use my clear wax again. Okay, so that's all melted. I'm letting it cool for just a little bit. And with this, I'm just gonna take some foil and kind of crumble it and sprinkle it over top of the wax. The foil can be a little unruly and floaty, so sometimes you have to crumble up a bunch and hope that it actually lands on its target. All right. There we go. Pretty good sprinkling, and I'm using just the blank seal to press it down. And then I'll let it set. All right, let's take a look. So you can brush off the excess just like we did with petals. And there you go. There are many ways to use wax seals beyond sealing an envelope flap. You can use them on favors, tags, and you can also play around with gluing something down under a wax seal. So here's an example of some dried flowers on a tag and a ribbon on a gift box. I hope you enjoyed learning how to create wax seals. If you post any of your creations on Instagram, we would love to see them, so please be sure to hashtag PaperSource.